Hey, well, today we're going to look at a beautiful example of the classic Indian dagger, the Katar. This is one of the more distinctive weapons in world history. Triangular blade, parallel bars running along your wrist, and a handle that is perpendicular to the blade. That is a unique package and a great design. You know, a lot of warriors, Roman legionnaires, samurai in Japan, etc., would have a dagger as kind of a last-ditch weapon. But this one is far more useful, to my mind, if you're fighting an armored opponent, because you can punch through armor. And this is what was used for the punching. In weapons work, there's a lot of trying to get around or mitigate your body's natural weaknesses. So like your wrist is just a natural weak point where something can go wrong when you're thrusting with a weapon. Well, this essentially removes that from the equation, because it's kind of like it's just the same push-up motion that's extremely natural. You know, take the heaviest weight you could do a push-up with, like a barbell, and then try to swing it. You're not going to be able to. And you can still swing with it, still slash with it. So on the other side of the weapon, this is the perpendicular handle is again the real key. That's why you're able to just execute a punch, and you have wrist protection, at least somewhat, right? Which is more than just about any dagger we can think of provides. They also had hooded Katars, where there was kind of a built-in gauntlet that your hand would slip into. So these were invented in southern India somewhere around the 14th century, and they lasted into modernity. They also became a status symbol. The one we're looking at here is a really fine example. You don't think of a dagger or a sidearm being a prestige weapon, culturally, but in this case it was. You went to a lot of trouble to create a blade like this, and the owner paid a lot for it. This is something to show off, and it speaks to your status, your wealth. As you guys know, I like showing you something I got to see in person, and I try to avoid just ripping pictures off the internet. I could show you a million different kinds of guitars. We'll stick with this one for right now. It's a simple construction, but a very fine, elaborate example. You'll notice here the broad blade, the broad base, gives the artist quite a canvas to work with, even on a short weapon. Lastly, on the art side of the equation, you will see these often depicted in Indian art, highlighting again how kind of culturally significant they were. Back to the functionality side, if you notice, the point here is really thick, right? It kind of widens out. This was a typical mechanism, and that emphasizes the armor punching or piercing capabilities. Now, as alluded to, there were some very elaborate versions of the Katar made, but I'll save that for later when I have an example to look at, and really I think this is the actual functional Katar that we're looking at here. Whereas with some of the others, I think it's a little bit more mythical in terms of historical combat use. As mentioned, these were commonly carried for about as long as bladed weapons were in civilization in general. So they had a very long run, roughly half a millennium, and you can see why it was such a functional design. There it is, a specimen of the Indian guitar that is beautiful yet extremely practical. Thanks.